This is a Yew Stick Bow. Nasty little bit of deflex at the end there. It's got some big gnarly knots and stuff. It was only 2 inches in diameter. Sort of thing you could make if you were out in the woods and you didn't have much in the way of tools. Alright, I'm cheating and using a bandsaw, but it's really to differentiate between what I call a stick bow and a bow made out of a good clean stave. I mean, that's a good solid yew stave, as opposed to the stick, you know. You can see the difference. So this is first time on the tiller, just to see if it moves. Nice thing is, it's just leave it with the bark on, don't touch the back at all, let it do what it wants to do. Might hear some cracking and popping as the bark starts popping off. I'm nominally looking for about, I don't know, what would be a decent bow to have. Some nice scary popping out in the woodlands. I don't know, I've just taken it up to 70. The first yew bow I ever made was £70, not 28, and that would certainly kill a deer or someone wearing chainmail. So I think anywhere over 70 or over will be fine. Let's see if we can see where the bark's popping off. Yeah, some cracks there, cracks here. Yeah. So the bark's lifting here. I've obviously got movement in the middle. So really it's a matter of getting the outers to do something. That's always going to be ugly. It's one of these things, do you put it on the upper limb or the lower limb? If you have it, whichever limb you have it on, it's going to make it look over weak. Then you'll get someone coming up and saying, oh, your tiller's out. But is what it is. Oh, I've got a cat come in. Hello, Pusser. Do you want to say hello to the camera? No, I don't. Bugger off. Right, that'll do. Anyway, I've been working with the tool knife, just taking down some of the thick bits, worked round some of the knots, thinned it a bit out towards the tips, just generally tidied it up a little bit, trying to be sympathetic and leaving extra wood where there's knots. You might hear some cracking and popping. There we are, that's 70. 75. I think 70 is probably a reasonable target. Right, I've gone to a low brace, which is very easy because of the bit of deflex in it, but it does give me a chance to look at the string line, which doesn't look too bad. I've been using the spoke shave now because it's so knotty that the draw knife was in danger of digging in too much. You know, and I've got big knots. I'm trying to be sympathetic and leave a little extra thickness there, but I think it's a common mistake to leave too much thickness. But the danger is in leaving thickness, when it shows up here, you're in danger of having a weak point either side. And that looks horribly thin there, but if we turn the bow round you can see I've got quite a lot of thickness there. So, you know, it's a very interesting stave. You can also see where the bark's been popping off, showing that that area is bending nicely, which is fine. Oh, another quick shufty. I've marked my arrow. It's going to sit there nicely in the hand with that big knobbly knot just above your hand for location, and that's where the arrow's going to sit. So the weight's going to be taken somewhere about there. Oh, so that's just my dust extractor lid settling. More cracking and popping as I've removed wood from other areas. It's letting the bow bend more and the bark move. And to me, that right limb looks stiff, where that knot is just here. She's looking stiff, but actually, see, this has just popped off because I slimmed that area, so it's obviously not too stiff. So I've been pulling that to 60. And it might all go bang, that big hollow knot just right of the grip. And there we are, that's 70 at about 20. That's actually not looking too bad, is it? Yeah, she's a bit stiff. Well, there's a little hint of reflex there, so I need that straightening out. See, that's the difference in a stave and a laminate. You think, oh, I've got a nice even curve, or I haven't got a curve, it's not bending, but if it was reflex to start with, well, yeah, it's a little bit stiff there, but it's not bad. It's got a long way to come yet, and whoa, you're on there, my son. I think we're probably stiff here. I think it's rocking on the tiller rather than flexing there. I mean, you can see it's a bit bulky there, so I'll probably slim that out a bit, which will help relieve that weak point. But yeah, it's coming on, isn't it? Well, I've done a bit more fiddling and fettling and rounding off the belly and sorting it out. The interesting thing is that the sides of the bow, the flank of the bow at this point is actually angled very much like that. So I don't know if you can see that. So if I turn it to camera, you can see it's very much over sideways that way. But that's how the bow wants to sit. I mean, at the belly's sort of at that sort of angle. And remember, it is a stick bow, it is what it is. It will bend the way it wants to bend, as long as I avoid it going sideways. I don't actually care too much. But the nice thing is that actually fits very snugly into your hand. The one thing is, it means with that slope, it's very comfortable in the grip, but the arrow pass will be rather near the belly side of the bow. I can round it off a little bit, fiddle it and fettle it, but obviously I've got to make allowances for these knots. I did give that a thump with a punch and a hammer. It didn't want to move, so I thought I'll leave it be. I'm trying to keep it as simple and quick as is reasonable. I can feel she's a bit fat there still, actually, although that's where it seems to be moving on the tiller. It seems to be stiff here, but it's probably this knotty area. I might have to rasp that out a little bit, or whittle it with a knife if Robin didn't have rasps. Anyhow, it's getting close. This has been spread over a few days, but I've actually spent very little time doing it. It's one of those things I've been dithering around, haven't had much to do. I've finished a couple of bows in rapid succession, and then I suddenly thought, oh, I'll pick that up. But it'll just be interesting to see. Well, hopefully it's interesting for people who've got these scruffy bits of yew. You know, what can I do with it? No, it might not make the best bow in the world, but it doesn't mean you've got to chuck it away or use it as a beanpole. You can have a go, and it'll teach you a lot more than just playing with a bit of clean cut machined timber. You have to actually really think about every inch along there and how and why it works and what the sapwood's doing. And I might get my comeuppance. It may explode. I'm quite happy to have it explode. Yeah, if you're not willing to get upset by a bow exploding, if you're that sensitive, don't have a go at making bows, because yeah, I've been in tears before now making bows. But you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, you start all over again. Let's sort of show you some of the close-ups. Something I mentioned in one of the other videos. This is the knot that I gave a little tap with a hammer to see if it would just drift through. You can see there's a lot of black manky stuff around there, and it's very dry and loose. So normally I'd drill or punch it out and peg it and glue it, but this is just supposed to be a rough and ready bow, so I'm doing as little as possible. That's a nasty area. A lot of knots there. What I've done is I've relieved some of the wood around the knotty areas, specifically that one where I said I might rasp. I've rasped that out. I've made the tips a bit thinner, narrower, tiny bit narrower, and taken some thickness off. But this deflex end, I noticed when it was being drawn, it didn't look weak. Well, because it's deflexed, it should show up as weak. You should think, oh, that's bending too much. So I've taken quite a bit extra off there. So hopefully that will show as flexing more now, or it will look more deflexed. Anyway, we'll have another look. Still looks stiff by that, where I've relieved that knot on the right limb. Look, it's still going crick crack. Does look weak just right of the grip where that piece is, where that funny knot's there on the side. Whoa, real cracking noises. It weighs 70 and that's about 22, but it's looking more like a bow. I mean, it's at a low brace, that would be a suitable bow as it is now, but if we improve the tiller we'll get round. Let's see what's been cracking off. Yeah, so wood's coming off, the bark's popping off there, which shows, yes, that is a slightly weak point. It's certainly working there. It's nature's natural strain gauge. It just confirms what I thought. She's moving a bit there. I've got a crack across there, so yeah, well, shows the whole limb's moving now. It's really hard work getting the bark off a bow cleanly, isn't it? Let's go. I've even got a crack going across there. Let's see if I can get me. Yeah, it shows she's all flexing. I can get to a point you're never really going to get any bend in the last sort of 6 inches or so, because there's so little leverage there, so you can slim that out even more. But I'm quite pleased that's popping off now. I didn't really have a proper look at that lower limb to see if that's bending more, but yeah, I've got, look, yeah, there you go, got a nice crack there. So yeah, it does look like it's all working. Got a crack across there. There we go. So that's looking quite encouraging. Yeah, I've got a series of cracks. There we go. Good game, good game. Right, let's just keep on with the work, keep slimming the tips, get them come round a bit more. Don't touch this area where it does seem weak, but oof, that's going to work, isn't it? That's going to be a real character. Right. Cup of tea, do a bit more, get back to you later. I've got the central pith showing up now on the belly. This is at the end that was the top of the limb, the top of the tree, and you can just about see it on the end grain there. That's the actual centre of the tree, but it was very asymmetric anyway. This was the side with the tighter growth rings. So that's only about ½ inch or so, but it was about almost 2 inches diameter there. Right, we're back on the tiller again, still at a low brace. I tried putting another turn in my magic ring, but I just couldn't brace it by hand, which told me it was still too high a draw weight. I was in danger of hurting myself. I've rounded the belly quite a lot more using a rasp. I've blended in where there were some tears around various knots. Slimmed the tips, a bit more off the tips, trying to get that coming round. Rasped a bit more out of this one to follow the flow of the grain. But it's tricky on a bow like this where the cross section is sort of on the skew, because it looks like you're quite slim, but the overall thickness can be quite a lot, so it's deceptive. It's funny how some bows fill you with confidence and some have you nervous as a kitten. For some daft reason I feel fairly confident about this, and yet on some of the bows I've done recently I've been like, well, wetting myself that they were going to go bang. You see, I've pulled on quite a bit more now. We're up, that's a good 22 inches, no 23, we're nearly 24 inches, so we're getting pretty close to right now, and that's a better looking curve. Can you see that outer, where I've relieved that knot, sort of 2/3 of the way along that right limb? It's just looking like it's beginning to come round a bit. And if you look at those chalk marks on the wall, and that left tip's looking a little bit weaker now, so, and it should look weak because it's got that natural deflex, and we're looking slightly odd. Slightly stiff here still. All in all, well pleased with that. I am putting over, whisker over 70 there. What did I say? It's about 23 inches. Yeah, it's fair way to come yet. But slow and steady wins the day.